recording. If members could please switch on the camera. Thank you.
That's the recording started, Chair.
Thank you. The next item in today's agenda is item number 14, which is the proposed disposal of the former Banff Community Centre and an area of common good land at Lower Devonside, Banff. In attendance, we have Simpson Douglas, the Commercial Development Manager, and our area manager, Angela Keith.
Jim McCoy as well, just for any legal questions, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Douglas, would you like to present the item, please? Can you hear us? Mr. Douglas, can you hear me?
Not let me hear you.
Mr. Douglas, can you hear me?
Apologies, I had my headphones plugged in and was footering about with my volume control in the machine, so apologies there.
Thank you. Now you've put in a bit with your headphones. If you'd like to present the item, please.
Fine. Well, good afternoon, Chair and members. In today's report, the committee is being asked to consider the detailed assessment of the outcomes of the statutory consultation with local community under Part 8 of the Community Empowerment Scotland Act 2015 for disposal of common good building and land at Lower Devonside, Banff, and seeks instruction for officers to progress the disposal and seek approval of the court for the disposal of that part which is common good land. The land and buildings are identified on the attached plan in Appendix 2. The Banff and Buchan Committee, and most of you I'm sure were there, at its meeting on the 27th of January, considered the results of a closing date for offers held on the 26th of November 2025 for the sale of these buildings and land, and seek approval to progress the highest offer received. It was in the sum of £195,052, and refer matters as appropriate for public consultation and ultimately to Sheriff Court if that was approved. A short life working group was set up and progressed matters, resulting in us meeting today. The statutory consultation commenced for a period of 9 weeks from the 18th of March on 2026 until 24th of May 2026. It was a slightly longer period than was necessary, and the briefing document is attached in Appendix 1 to this report. The consultation responses, together with the Council's responses to the issues raised and the outcome of the Area Committee decision, will be collated and will be published on Aberdeenshire Council Engage platform within 8 weeks of the consultation closing date. The requirements to carry out such a consultation are set out in the statutory guidance, Common Good Property Statutory Guidance for Local Authorities, published in June 2018, 23rd June 2018. And the consultation was delivered across multiple platforms, including a digital strategy via the website Engage Aberdeenshire, social media, Facebook. It was also engaged directly with Banff and Macduff Community Council, Friends of Duff House, and was also via a newspaper, Grampian Online, local venues with paper copies posted in Macduff Library, Banff Library, Devon Community and Sports Centre, Banff and Myres Community and Sports Centre, Macduff. There was also an on-site notice. There's also an on-site notice, and also in Co-op and Tesco supermarkets, the Post Office, Notice Board, Strachan's Pharmacy, and the bookshop Books Abroad. So it's a fairly widespread and detailed covering of the local community. It ended on the 24th of May. In total, it was publicly open for a comment for 9 weeks and 3 days. So that was a week and 3 days longer than the minimum 8 weeks. A total of 51 responses were received during the consultation period, and these are set out in Appendix 1 to this report. I don't intend to go through it. They can all be read there, and I believe that Angela is going to say a few words after me What we can say about it is that the response rate was lower than we thought we might get against a combined population of Banff and Macduff of 8,000. And this results in about 0.6% of the total population, which is well below kind of an average rate for UK consultations of 10 to 30%. There was a social media view total of 33,000, which suggests that certainly a lot of people were looking at it. No requests for paper copies were received and no paper responses were submitted. The feedback identifies several consistent themes, including concern about the principle for selling common good land and its long-term loss to the community. Respondents also highlighted a lack of other information to support informed views, particularly regarding the site's future use. So I think Angela is going to speak a little bit more on the public engagement response at the end. In terms of the legislative context, the criteria for undertaking the consultation is set out in statutory guidance, common good property, statutory guidance for local authorities, and it's understood that we met that criteria and can therefore move forward in that knowledge. When we're seeking to dispose of common good land, we must have regard to the terms of the consultation. So it's not a very black and white instruction. It just says that we have to have regard to it. So we have followed the process and had regard to the requirements that are set out in the legislation. The money from the sale will be shared between the Common Good Fund and Aberdeenshire's General Fund account. The split will be 32.6% to the Common Good Fund, 67.4% to the council, based on the value of the land and the building. The sale proceeds and costs that relate to the common good will be shared equally between Banff and Macduff Common Good Funds. Aberdeenshire Council will hold this money to benefit people in both towns, and it may help support future community-led projects that provide a benefit to those communities as a whole. The fund is managed by the Banff and Buchan Area Committee. So, in conclusion, therefore, the committee has recommended to 1.2.1, consider the terms of the public consultation as carried out, and having had regard to the outcomes of the consultation, instruct the head of legal and people to conclude missives for the sale of the subjects to the previously identified preferred bidder, and instruct the head of legal and people to seek approval for the Sheriff Court under Section 75 of the Local Government Scotland Act 1973 to dispose of that part of the asset which is common good prior to progressing the sale. Thank you, Chair. That completes my presentation, and I believe that Angela wishes to add a short statement prior to opening up to the floor, when I'm sure she and I are happy to field comments from the members as appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. I will take Angela in front first, just for completeness.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Simpson. Good to know that we're on the same page, because a lot of what I prepared is what you've said already, but nevertheless, I think it's important points to highlight. So first, I'd like to start by thanking the people who took the time and effort to complete the survey, as their feedback is hugely important and has guided officers to the next point in the disposal process. As Simpson highlighted, the consultation was undertaken in line with statutory requirements for the disposal of common good land, and the survey was widely advertised with regular promotion online and in paper format at many locations across the Banff and Macduff area. The survey generated support for and against the proposal. These included valid considerations and forms an important part of the overall assessment, alongside the views expressed in opposition. Formal feedback from the council will go on the Engage HQ platform this week and will allow for the area committee's views and points also to be shared. It's important to note that while the consultation generated a number of detailed and strongly held responses, the overall level of participation was relatively low when considered in the context of the wider communities of Banff and Macduff. and Simpson note the numbers that are mentioned in your report. It's difficult, but there's no single response rate that determines whether a survey is representative. However, due to the low response rate, it seems fair to suggest that findings may not fully represent the views of the wider community. Members have the full survey responses attached in Appendix 2 of your papers. These have been retracted where sensitive or inappropriate references have been made. The questionnaire was short and asked direct questions to indicate whether there was agreement with a proposal from Aberdeenshire Council to sell the area of common good land, which was clearly identified in blue in the plan. There was also an open space box to allow people to leave comments and also ask for postcode details, so that was an indication of where people lived who had completed the survey. A question and answer document offered a clear and concise explanation as to where the land was, why it was proposed for sale, who had expressed an interest in buying it, the indicated new proposed use, the common good requirements and process that the council must follow, including reporting to Banff and Buchan Area Committee today to seek approval to move to permission for the court to sell the common good asset. In addition to the online and paper surveys, the documents were sent directly to the Friends of Duff House, who made a detailed response, and Banff and Buchan Community Council, who did not respond. All feedback is taken into account as part of the council and the court's decision-making process. In doing so, the council must balance a range of factors, including its responsibility as custodian of common good assets, the potential benefits arising from the proposals and the long-term interests of the community. There is recognition within the responses that the land has been unused or unutilised for a significant period, with many expressing a desire to see it brought into productive use. We also note feedback on the potential wider economic benefits, including supporting local businesses, attracting visitors, and contributing to the overall vitality of the town and wider area. Similarly, respondents highlighted the opportunity to improve the appearance and overall vibrancy of Banff, with a broader desire to see positive change and regeneration within the area. A number of comments also expressed confidence in the proposed purchaser and their ability to deliver a development that would benefit the community. Overall, the council welcomes this recognition from the proposals being considered, and the support for the proposal is underpinned by a desire to see the site improved, investment brought into the area and a positive outcome delivered. Some concerns, however, were raised about the future use of common good land and the use of future common good funds. So it's important to clarify that proceeds from the sale of this common good asset will be retained within the common good fund. And as Simpson mentioned, split 50-50 with a breakdown across the common good fund and the council. So the rewards are there financially to benefit both Banff and Macduff. And there is no loss of the overall value of the fund. Rather, the fund is transferred from a land asset into a financial resource that can be reinvested in future opportunities that benefit the local community. This enables financial support for projects and initiatives that deliver outcomes for the common good of the two towns over time. We note the views expressed by some respondents for the land to be used for community or recreational purposes, and to consider leased options rather than sale. A lease option was not considered, mainly due to the condition of the building and the rate of financial return this would offer to the common good fund over time, with or without considerable capital investment. It was therefore preferred to dispose of the land, as it would not remove the value from the common good fund. As I said, rather it would enable the value of the asset to be realised and reinvested, providing that wider opportunities and benefits to the community. Thank you, Chair. I'll stop there and maybe pause for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Firstly, Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Angela. Chair, I wanted to ask something of the monitoring solicitor at this stage, and then I'll come back later after other colleagues have come in. I see other Councillor Finlett has got his hand up. But I just have a query in terms of the process here, because obviously, even if we approve the sale today, if it was approved, residents will still have the opportunity to object at a planning application stage, so it comes before us then. I know we've been through this before, it's a sense of deja vu, but I just wondered if we are in any way limited or should be limited by any representations we make or comments we make now, prior to any this coming back before us again at a planning application stage. I just wanted to be a bit careful about language that's used and so forth, if that is appropriate. So I'm just seeking some guidance, please. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Reynolds, that's a pertinent question, and yeah, happy to take that one on board. Yes, I would caution you in the language that you use today and restrict it to what you're being asked to do in this paper, rather than any wider issues, because as you correctly identified, there is a potential that at some point in the future you may be faced with a planning application that involves the same area. So yes, I think it's a good point. And I don't think that restricts you in your consideration of this paper, but I think you're just going to need to be careful about the language you use, perhaps maybe on wider issues about the use of land. Does that help?
Yes, yeah, exactly. But I'm on the same page as what you've said, Morag. But I mean, essentially, I think it's one of those whatever representations we make now, which are non-specific in terms of the applicant or the applicant's intentions, it's just that sense of retaining an open mind, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so as long as that's clear for the record, thanks. I'll come back later after Councillor Findlater, if I may, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Findlater.
No, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Glenn. Kindly, actually, because it's a reminder of us what we're saying, because that could well conflict us in the future. So thank you. I wasn't going to say it, and it would conflict me, but I think, Angela, you've done everything that you and your team have done possible to put it out there. I'm really surprised the most vociferous Banff and Buchan Community Council that I've not put any response in, going with the comments that I'm sure the other members from Ward 1 and 2, the comments about it, they've not got a response in. Well, you've given them an opportunity. It's been, and it's your man, Mr. Simon has been saying Simpson. So it's been a long day. It's put across that you've done the utmost, so I don't think there's more than you could have done. Social media is usually a good avenue for getting response. So is that a good sign or a bad sign? I don't know. That people have been given the opportunity. My question really is on the percentages. There'll be an answer there why the percentage to the common good and to the big council fund, because I would have thought it would just be the costs to the council as far as managing and administering it, rather than, you know, like a third if it just goes into the common good, whereas 2/3 goes into the big pot. Why?
I'll bring Simpson, and my apologies, Simpson, for
That's all right.
getting your name wrong.
I can assure you, with a name like mine, I've had a lot worse. I'm completely inured to it. The apportionment of value was an interesting exercise, and I looked at that with Elaine McCarran, and we hauled out the latest internal asset valuation figures for each property. That is the building element and the former tennis court area land element. And obviously the former tennis court land area is effectively 100%. And the building has a couple of small areas which required to be identified. So we did it on a site area basis, and and that's how it was done. So I didn't value either the building or the landscape area. That was Russell, who's the regular valuer in the team, and that's how we approached it. So it seemed to be the fairest way.
So, Chair, that's not really answered my question. Is it? But why the percentage breakdown? Because it's common good
Oh,
land.
that I can answer that. We were specifically asked to break it down by the finance team before we went to the February, hang on, was it January committee?
I think Councillor Finlater's asking for the specific reasons, rationale.
But why is it just under a third is going to the common good fund when it's common good land, and 2/3 of it's going into the general fund pot, Aberdeenshire Council?
Well, the building is largely owned by the general fund, but parts of it belong to the common good.
Right, so just under 30%.
There's a higher value in buildings than land, as a general rule of thumb.
Okay.
Although the building is extremely dilapidated.
So just to confirm, Simpson, and by the way, us councillors have been called a lot worse names, so don't worry about it. It's a percentage of the land and the value, yes, equates, the 32.6% equates to the common good. And that's the right number. That's because I was just thinking, you know, yeah, but you've worked it out. That's fine. That's a good answer. So,
yes,
it's fine.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much, Simpson, for the presentation. I'll just sort of lay out the land in terms of where I am on this, and Simpson and for that matter, Morag, you know, please do correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's very important to say one or two things as I understand it, which is I'm seeking correction if that's necessary, because obviously there'll be the public at some stage will be listening to this, and I think that there are some reassurances that need to be provided, or some clarifications. So, I mean, a very basic level, as I understand it, a 0.6% engagement rate is totally legally valid. You know, you can't question, nobody can question the legalities of that. Such consultations as this are typically very low, and 0.6% might be on the low side of those in terms of averages, but it doesn't mean that you know no one can suggest, because the process has been fine and correctly carried out, and 0.6% is the result. For some people, and I'm not suggesting that this relates to myself, but for some people, that undermines a sort of democratic mandate for a disposal. But I think that it also, conversely, councils I know often treat low response rates as an indication that the public doesn't have a strong or substantive objection to a proposal. And unless there is some evidence of a strong community pushback or viable counter proposal, they will almost inevitably look at the financial advantage of selling, outweighing a few disadvantages. Now, all of that I'm putting in the context of hypotheticals, because the council is caught between a rock and a hard place in terms of the direction of travel here, which is ultimately determined by us, by the Sheriff Court, and by the future planning application should that occur. But the point I wanted to make principally is that obviously, despite the low turnout, as a council, we're still bound by a fiduciary duty to act in the best interests of the inhabitants of the area. And to pick up on the point I made previously, if any opponents or community councils or public choose to contest the sale, they can do that through the planning application stage, and there are other options as well, including appeal and judicial review. So just to state for the public record that this is the beginning of a process and not the end of it, and that those that wish to object, rightly or wrongly, are still going to have that option available. At the moment, as far as what I can see in terms of the correct process, that has been carried out. And as far as I'm concerned, that is the right thing to have done, and there can't be any questioning the validity of that process. So that's where I stand at the moment. Thanks.
I'm not, I think just Councillor Reynolds, just one tiny point in what you've just said that I should maybe clarify, given that I suspect the purpose of that was so that the public could hear those options. I think what you said was that there would be the potential for anybody that wished to appeal the sale through the planning application. Those are very separate processes. So this is dealing with the sale, and then at some point in the future, there may or may not be a planning application. But just to clarify that those two processes are very separate, so there wouldn't be an appeal route through planning. But other than that, I think all I can say is, I'm assured this report's been monitored. There's been a lot of work done by the working group in the background, and I'm certainly assured from monitoring the report and speaking with Angela that the processes have been followed correctly. But I don't think there's, unless you have anything sort of specifically for me to answer, Councillor Reynolds, I don't think there's anything else.
Well, maybe just quite specifically, I think I probably know the response to this, but again, it's one of those things to assure the public, and that is that irrespective of the low turnout, local authorities such as us are bound by a fiduciary duty to act in the best interests of the inhabitants of the area. That's the point, the principal point that I wish to make. Thanks.
I actually think that's probably one for Angela to answer and pass that back. I'm content that they have followed the statutory process in respect of this particular matter. So that's a guiding principle here from my perspective, Councillor Reynolds. There is a statutory process, and that process has been followed. So in turn, that is serving the wider public because there is an assurance the process has been followed. And if Angela has anything she wishes to add,
I'll bring in Simpson.
Thank you, Chair. The sale is not conditional upon the applicant making a successful planning consent for anything. So basically the applicant is buying it as is, and in fact could continue to use it as its most recent use, which was by the applicant as a tenant for the storage of goods and associated with their spotty bag shop operation on the other side of the street. However, the purchaser has confirmed to me that their plans have not yet been formulated. I phoned him yesterday to ask whether the letter which he had attached to his offer, which was a fairly generic letter saying that we'd be building and the land would be used to further the public offerings and retail offerings that the Spotty Bag Shop already had across the road. Nothing had changed. He told me yesterday he didn't have a firm view yet. He was really just waiting to find out whether, in fact, all the hurdles would be cleared, and then he could sit down and really make some kind of final decisions about what the direction of travel should be. So there may never be a planning application. He may fix the roof and use it as a storeroom in the short term, but that would be his prerogative.
And that's my point, Chair and Simpson, that at this moment the process has been carried out quite correctly, and therefore we should proceed on that basis.
I think that is the conclusion the officers have reached. Councillor Reynolds, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I don't see any further indications. Therefore, the committee on page 116 of today's paper are asked to consider the terms of the public consultation as carried out, having had regard to the outcomes of the consultation, instruct the head of legal and people to conclude missives for the sale of the subjects to the previously identified preferred bidder, and in 1.2.2 instruct the head of legal and people to seek approval from the Sheriff Court under an S75 of the Local Government Scotland Act 1973 to dispose of the part of the asset that is the common good prior to progressing the sale. Committee, do we agree these recommendations?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. If Emma could bring councillor Cox back into the meeting, he had declared an interest in the last item.
Now, Chair.
Thank you, Emma.
Councillor Cox, is that you back in the meeting?
It certainly is. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back, councillor Cox. The next item on today's agenda is item number 15, which is the merger of Fintry School and King Edward School. And in attendance today we have Maxine Booth, the Quality Improvement Manager, and Gail Dick, the Project Officer. Welcome, ladies. And Maxine, would you introduce the item, please?
I will do. Good afternoon, councillors. Today I'm presenting the final report regarding the statutory consultation to merge Fintry and King Edward schools. This will result in pupils being taught from one of the school buildings and the other building permanently closed. The main driver of the proposal is to bring educational benefits for current and future children of both communities, as well as addressing capacity issues. Both schools were underutilised and had declining roles. The proposal also retains rural education, which is of great value and importance to both communities. Due to the declining role, a decision was taken to mothball Fintry School from August 2025. The majority of those pupils moved to King Edward School. Since August 2025, the school at King Edward, the role at King Edward School has increased by 14 pupils and now has a role of 36 pupils. Operating well as a two-class school, providing pupils with the educational and social aspects of larger peer groups, this has created a viable rural school. The statutory consultation for the merger ran from the 16th of February to the 27th of March this year. A public meeting was held on the 4th of March at Turriff Primary School, which was well attended by staff, parents and community members. The survey was also available as part of the consultation. Throughout the process, staff and parents have been very supportive of the merger and recognise the educational benefits of the children being part of a larger school. However, they have been quite divided in which school should remain, and this has been reflected throughout the statutory consultation. Pupils' views were also gathered as part of the consultation. Some had a difference of opinion on which school should be retained, but the children really enjoy being part of larger groups, stating it's really good working with more people of your own age and having more friends. We enjoy being in two classes. Following the consultation period, HMIE reviewed the proposal and the educational aspects of the consultation. The inspectors agree that there are potential and educational benefits to the proposal to merge both schools. They consider that this will create one rural school that is more likely to be viable, given that the roles of both schools were projected to fall in longer term. The inspectors consider that neither site has a clear advantage and stated the analysis of the likely impact of the roles based on each site will be important when determining which site would be the better option. So today, councillors are being asked to consider the final consultation report regarding the merger of Fintry and King Edward School and provide comments for Education and Children's Services Committee on the recommendation in the consultation report at section 14.2 to merge Fintry School and King Edward School, and to provide comments for Education and Children's Services on the recommendation in the consultation report at section 14.4 on which school should be retained. In determining which school building should be retained, members should give balanced consideration to the following key factors: the educational benefit, the school role and sustainability, condition and suitability of the buildings, location and accessibility, the community impact, and transition and implementation. Whilst officers have made a recommendation, members should weigh these factors collectively in determining which option best meets the needs of current and future pupils while supporting the sustainability of rural education provision within the area. We have now got a presentation to share of drone footage of both schools along with some internal photographs, and then we'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I have councillor Findlater, whose hand keeps going up and down. Not his fault, I would say. Bring things up and back.
Thank you, Chair. For sure, I'd just like to thank Maxine, you and your team for everything you've done on this consultation. It has been, I think, very difficult for you, and indeed it has been for the parents and families and parents, indeed, of King Edward and Fintry. But they've gone through the process, they've done it all, and they've the attendance at these meetings has been very, very good. So thank you for that. The decisions come down to councillors at the end of the day now, because it is so close. And you're 100% right. We've got to get effect. We've got to get it right for every child. And we've got to get it right for the current parents at the school and the future parents at the school. And I have to make sure that the school shall keep on doing the excellent work that it has done. Now, as far as my decision and what I will be pushing for is King Edward School to be retained. My reasons for this, having gone through your paperwork and being at the consultations and listening to everybody on this, the parents are there already and their education has not been disrupted that much, but I do think that moving them, there will be a cost, and we've gone through this, it's a minimal cost, but there will be a cost. But again, disruption moving the bairns away. The school itself, King Edward School, is right in the middle of the zone. So it makes more sense as far as school transport, etc. Whereas Fintry is right on the edge out to the Turriff end. And the fact is that I do think the school role will continue to rise with the most excellent head teacher, staff, and indeed this was proved in the excellent report, or the good report. We know it's an excellent report that King Edward School had, and there was evidence from the parents who've taken their children from Macduff and from Banff area because of this and because of the setting that's there. So, and I'm sure that's going to continue to rise. So my feelings are that, and I've listened to everybody, and I fully believe that King Edward School should be the school that is retained, and the amalgamation of Fintry and King Edward Schools. King Edward School to be retained. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Maxine, and your team. I appreciate that this has been a long and painful experience. Nobody wants to go shutting schools, especially me, but there is there's good sense at the back of this. Both sites score very similarly when we come into condition, etc., etc. Fintry has already been mothballed, so the condition's not getting any better there, and there's nobody in there at this moment in time. So all pupils from Fintry have already transitioned over to King Edward. Moving them back to Fintry, if that was the final decision that was taken, and I'll come to my thoughts in just a moment, again, would not be in the benefit of the pupils or the staff, because the staff are all settled as well. So everybody needs to be taken into consideration there. So the educational benefit would be to stay at King Edward. In relation to the transport links, King Edward has got 2 lines of feeding into academies, to Banff and to Turriff. Fintry feeds into Turriff. To move the pupils back to Fintry and then have to create another route when one already exists, again, would be extra work upon the service, but detrimental to the school, the running of the school, in my view. So that's the transitioning for that. And the transport links to King Edward are immensely better than they are to Fintry, because you've got the A947. So getting to and from the academies, both Turriff and Banff, is beneficial from being close to that transport link. So that's the transportation issue met. I heard a story from the meeting that was held when the HMIE came up, and that was at King Edward. And that was from somebody that went along to that meeting. And the question was posed to those that were at the meeting: what are your thoughts on getting rid of this school, i.e. King Edward? Now, I don't know if that was in anyone's remit or what, but to say there was a little bit of uproar would be an understatement, because people automatically went to the fact that there may be a bigger capital receipt for the council if King Edward was to be sold off, because you can actually put some houses in the little plot that school is on. Now, my view is the educational needs of the children come first, not the capital receipts to the council. That being said, something has to give. My view is King Edward is retained. And if King Edward isn't retained on the grounds that it's getting a bigger capital receipt, then count me into the group that will be shouting about it very loudly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And councillor Menard, please.
Yes, thank you. I think my fellow ward councillors have said everything that needs to be said, bearing in mind that I actually sit on education and children's services, so I'm not going to make any other comments. But I would like to thank you and the rest of your crew for the effort that you've put in, the sensitivity that you've shown across the board to both Fintry and King Edward parents and the staff and everything else. No, you need to be highly commended for everything that you've done, and I'm just looking forward to sitting in on the committee and coming to the result that I think we will find amenable to everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can see no further comments, hands up. So, committee, we are being asked on page 137 to consider the final consultation report attached in appendix 1 regarding the merger of Fintry School and King Edward School, provide comments for education and children's services on the recommendations in the consultation report to merge the schools, and provide comments for Education and Children's Services Committee on the recommendation in the consultation report. So I have got the following comments. If I haven't captured something, please come in. Priority is to get it right for every child. Since the children are already based in King Edward School, and therefore retaining it would give more stability to children and staff going forward. The educational benefits in merging schools make sense, and there are bigger social benefits to that end too. King Edward has the ability to feed into 2 academies, and therefore gives a better choice to both pupils and parents going forward to secondary education. And the transport links are better to King Edward than to Fintry, and therefore it is a more sensible option. Those would be the comments I would put forward if we are in agreement.
You forgot the pitchfork mention and the baying mob.
Yeah, Chair.
Not bringing pitchforks and baying mobs into it.
Chair, you missed out some of the important bits. One, King Edward is centre of the zone. That's an important one.
King Edward's a
King Edward's centre of the zone, and you know this is to retain. We warn about the future of the school and having more bairns come to the school. Why go to a school right on the edge, the periphery, the far east towards Turriff, then you can have one right in the centre for all the bairns getting to. But also it's the fact that there are children that are coming from Ava and Banff and Macduff specifically to the school because of the excellent report and the fact that these parents and children decided on this school, their rural setting, and that would change
So therefore, the sustainability of King Edward
in the future in the school role. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Member Dunn.
I think that was it. And if you mentioned the report from the King Edward School, because it was a King Edward School report.
I think our area clerk has captured that. Yes, thank you. So that's under 1.2.2, and I think we're fairly certain what the recommendation is under 1.2.3. The recommendation of the Banff and Buchan Area Committee is that we retain King Edward School.
Yeah.
Committee, are we agreed?
Yes, agreed.
Thank you. And thank you, Maxine and Gail, for coming along today.
Thank you.
Some of the committee will look forward to seeing you in Education and Children's Services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. The next item on today's agenda is the Community Councils of Banff and Buchan, and we have Emma Nichol, our Area Committee Officer. I keep calling her a clerk, and she's an Area Committee Officer. My apologies. How could I do that?
Good afternoon, Area Committee. This report seeks agreement for the proposed allocations of Banff and Buchan Community Council grants for 2026-2027. It is proposed to use the same allocation basis as last year, which is a fixed grant of £600 to each community council, supplemented by an additional amount based on the number of people on the electoral roll in each community council area. The breakdown for each community council is in Appendix 2. Members may recall last year it was indicated that we'll be asking community councils for information on their spend of the administrative grant to ensure that the funding is fair and appropriate. We will be reviewing this information this year with the intention to bring forward recommendations next spring for how the funding will be allocated. Within the report, there's also some general updates around support for community councils in Aberdeenshire, such as the community council training available in Aldo, which has recently been updated. In addition, the community council section on the website, which provides advice, guidance and tools to support community council work. Community council forums continue to be held every 6 months, enabling community councils to meet and share experiences, good practice and approaches to key issues. The committee is asked to note the updates provided and consider and agree the proposed allocation of Banff and Buchan Community Council grants for 2026-27. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you for your work on this. Committee, do you have any questions for Emma, please? I see no questions. Then. Oh, sorry, Councillor Reynolds.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. It's not really well. Can we make sure that I mean, it crops up at a lot of community councils in terms of what they can actually include and what they can't include. So when we finalise this, can we please ensure, and it may be that they receive it, but it really does arise a lot. And so can we just clarify what they can do with this money and what they can't do with the money? I mean, there are all sorts of little nuanced expenses, for example, that occur in individual community councils, and they're not really sure. Thanks.
Absolutely, we'll get that clarified and issued to community councils when we've got that agreed.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds, for bringing that up. And yeah, you are right. They need sort of a firm clarification on this plan. Okay. So committee, under page 251, the committee is recommended to note the updates provided within the report and consider and agree the proposed allocation for the Banff and Buchan Community Councils for April 26 to March 27. Committee, do we agree the recommendations?
Yeah.
Thank you. The next item on today's agenda is the Banff and Buchan Area Committee Budget 26-27, and we have Angela Keeper, Area Manager, presenting this paper. Angela, if you'd like to present the item, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the report sets out the area committee budget for 26-27. And the amount allocated this year is £70,800. The committee is asked to review and approve the revised criteria and the updated application form. The criteria was narrowed slightly to allow for more focus on the key areas of work and apply a sound, place-based approach to utilising the place and wellbeing outcomes framework against the council priorities. To ensure a wide opportunity for groups across the Banff and Buchan area to assess this fund, the amount has been reduced to a maximum application of £2,500, with grants up to the first £1,000 being 100% funded, and requests over £1,000 will require match funding of 20%, receiving 80% of the grant. The reference in your report at 3.2 does note that an 80% match funding is required. That is incorrect and an error, but I apologise for, and just to be clear, that the match funding element would be 20%. In terms of timeframes, we will invite applications and advertise the fund this week with a closing date of the 20th of July. Due to the summer recess period, I'm seeking delegation to allow applications to be fully assessed and determined over the summer period in consultation with the Chair, Vice Chair and opposition. And a report will return to Banff and Buchan Area Committee on the 18th of August, providing a full breakdown of the grant allocations and the projects that it will support. If the fund is not fully allocated at this point, then a second tranche of funding can be considered, and this will be fully mentioned in the report in August. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Have we any questions for Angela? No, I see no indications. Thank you. Okay, on page 258 in your papers today, the committee has agreed to note the confirmed area budget of 17,800. Agree the criteria for this budget in Appendix 1 and the application form in Appendix 2. And agree that the fund element will be advertised openly from tomorrow. Note the agreed projects must be completed and funds allocated and by 15th March 27, and agree to delegate the allocations of funds to the area manager in consultation with chair, vice chair and opposition spokesperson. Committee, do we agree these recommendations?
Agreed.
Thank you. I can now confirm that the public section of the meeting has concluded and that the recording will be stopped. Thank you for your interest in today's business. Members of the committee will now go on to consider exempt or confidential business without the press and public present. Emma, could you stop the recording, please?